Hey everybody, and welcome to another Vectra webcast. My name is John Callahan. I'm in the product marketing group in Vectra, and delighted to welcome you all today wherever you may be. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today our topic is going to be around managed detection and response, and we just move slides forward here in a better fashion. It'd be handy. And we're going to talk around this. We had a recent launch around our MDR services. So we'll talk to you today about what that is and what it means for customers and organizations around the world. And we're going to focus in a little bit on talking about our collaborative methodology as well and our shared responsibility model. So first of all, let me introduce the key speakers for today. Jonathan Barrett, who's the director of our consulting analyst, unfortunately can't join us today. As being a customer-first organization, he's actually working with a customer as we speak. So can't join us, but delighted that we have CJ Spallitta, who's a Vice President for Product Management for MDR Services. And we've also got the magnificent Thomas Patterson, who's our Principal Product Manager. Good afternoon, guys, to you guys. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon.
Okay, so before we kick off into the content, let's just go through a couple of things on housekeeping. So you've noticed there on the bottom right of the platform, you have the opportunity to pose questions. So please feel free to use the chat box or the question box there to send us any questions you have. We'll do our best to try and answer those throughout the course of the event. And if not, we'll take note of questions and get back to you afterwards via email. In the middle, we have a survey at the end of the session. We'd be delighted if you can provide your immediate feedback in relation to the webcast itself. And we'll also have a list of resources that you can access directly to help you get a better understanding and learning on the MDR services that we're going to talk about today. Okay, so we'll start off with a couple of introductions. So CJ, do you want to give us a quick 1-minute overview?
Sure. Hi, I'm CJ Spallitta. I joined Vectra about a year ago to run their MDR business. I've been in the MDR space for 6 or 7 years and been in the MSSP space for about 25 years. So excited to help take the Vectra vision and bring it to reality.
Yeah, you don't look a year over 30, to be honest. So.
It's a filter, Thomas, it's a filter on my camera.
Thomas, quick introduction to yourself would be good as well.
Absolutely. So I'm Thomas Patterson, Principal PM. As John said, I've been in the data security and MDR space for quite a long time, and looking forward to talking with all of you today.
Very good. Thank you very much indeed. So listen, without further ado, let's get cracking on the main content. So I'm going to hand the baton over to CJ here, and he's going to bring us through the security challenge agenda.
Perfect. Okay, so I want to talk about security challenges. I think we're all in this field, and I think this should resonate. So if I was to summarize cybersecurity in one word, then what would that one word be? And when I do this live in front of a live audience, I get all kinds of answers. But in our view, the one word that describes cybersecurity right now is more. And I don't mean that as a good thing. So if we talk about more, we're just inundated with more attack surfaces, more vulnerabilities, more evasive attackers, more exploits, more user errors, more categories. There's a new category every week, it feels like, in our business. More vendors, more tools, and these tools create more data that we have to figure out how to analyze. And then we need more skills because we have all these tools and we need to train our people. But we still have more blind spots than ever. We're getting more alerts than ever, and how do you prioritize those? There's more rules, more triage, and ultimately more burnout for our people, which is a problem. So more is not the answer to more, and we empathize with you. We're constantly being bombarded, particularly in the security industry. We keep piling more and more on. Again, more categories, more tools, more costs, more data, and then ultimately more training and skills needed. So it's an interesting time in this market. Oh, sorry, I missed the build. Here it comes. Okay. So we have this problem of more in the security space, and then frankly, cloud has made it worse. So cloud's delivering a lot of great outcomes, but it's also made it worse for security to some degree, and will continue to get worse as cloud adoption continues to grow, which there's no reason it won't. So we have more cloud deployments. Obviously, we see that every day, which creates more cloud gaps because there's more vulnerabilities, more misconfigurations, creating more blind spots. And then which results in more cloud compromise. So there's more exploits on cloud. There's more breaches. There's different exfiltration tactics. And if you look at one of the latest surveys out there from IBM from this year, 45% of breaches were cloud-based, and I think we can logically assume that'll only continue to increase as the adoption for cloud increases, which ultimately puts more cloud strain on our business. So there's more complexity, more training requirements, more resources. You guys can read the list, but which essentially puts more strain on our people, processes, and tools. And we hear this every day from our customers and prospects that we talk to. So we've been talking about this vicious spiral of more, and it's really having an impact on our people, which is a big concern. So we have more attack surface, more vulnerabilities, more exploits, more evasive attackers. Again, more tools, more alerts, more rules. But what we're seeing, what we're hearing, is that that's creating more burnout and more turnover, which is a challenge in and of itself. It's even more of a challenge in the security space because there's already a skills gap and a talent gap. So also from that IBM survey I mentioned a moment ago, 67% of defenders experience stress or anxiety in their personal lives, and the rest of that statement is because of their day job being a security analyst or security professional, which is a real concern. So we did our own study. So we worked with ESG Group. And we did a survey of, I think, 700 or 800 CISOs, talking about, all the challenges that this situation more is creating. And from the survey respondents, the #1 challenge when it comes to threat detection and response is analyst workload. And I just talked about that, and I'm sure many of you are nodding your heads that is an issue. Because, the well-being of the human being is really the #1 problem CISOs are facing based on what we're hearing and based on this survey. Secondly, it's, again, cloud complexity. We talked about that. Clouds can continue to grow and continue to be a part of our ecosystems and infrastructures, so that's just creating more complexity. Particularly if you look at cloud, like each vendor has their own native security tool, and it's hard to stitch all that stuff together. Thirdly, it's, again, so we have more tools and we have all these things, but it's still more difficult to find real attacks. It's how do you find the things that really matter that you work on, that you should be working on. There's more devices on the network, and then it's more difficult to keep pace. So I think all these things are somewhat related, and not surprising at all based on all the discussions that we have with customers and prospects and partners, and I'm sure you have the same thoughts. Okay, so we have all of this, we have more of everything, and I talked about the challenges of that, but yet the one problem still remains the same, and that's the unknown. Again, we talk to customers every day, and this is kind of we boiled this down to the major problem being the unknown. So we don't know if we can keep pace with advanced attacks, and you can see some of our survey statistics underneath. So 83% of security leaders think traditional approaches don't work for modern threats. We don't know how to prioritize threats that matter the most, and I mentioned that from that ESG survey. That was one of the key concerns of CISOs. 79% of security leaders say vendor tools fail to live up to their promise. And I think the last one, if we could say one is more important than others, I think this is the most important one, or the one that's the most concerning, is we don't know if we are being compromised right now. And we hear that all the time. So Thomas is going to talk in a moment about our MDR service and how we think we help alleviate the unknown. But in our view, really the answer to this is signal. You have to have a signal at speed and scale with high efficacy. That's what's really needed to, across detection and prioritization, investigation, and response. And Thomas is going to talk about how we do it, but it's really, you need an AI-driven platform that empowers humans to make the best decisions. And that's really the key. That's really the premise of the service we're trying to deliver to the market. So with that, Thomas, I'll let you talk specifically about our MDR service.
Yeah, thanks, CJ. So as CJ was saying, we can erase the unknowns. We want to be able to deliver that human intelligence with the cybersecurity skills that'll be able to help you detect, investigate, and respond to those threats. And how do we do that? We do that by covering 4 of the 5 attack surfaces natively. And so that means if the vector is from identity, from SaaS, from public cloud or network, we do all of that in our platform today natively. But we also integrate with a robust ecosystem that I'll talk about in a little bit. But then you add all of that in, and that provides you the managed detection and response services. As we wrap all of those threat vectors, bring in your security technologies and put them together and give you that clear signal that you're needing to look for. And when we do this allows us to enable intelligent control. It allows us to bring in integrated investigations that allows us to enrich data so that the answers for our analysts as well as yours are at your fingertips. This allows us to reduce tool pivoting and context switching. It also allows us to expedite those investigations. And it enables the ability to do some automated threat hunting. Talking about automation, we also have automated workflows that allow us to streamline our process. This allows us to enrich the alerts with context, be able to streamline that information to your SIM, as well as customize the ticketing systems that you guys use to get that data you're looking for. And what does that all do for us? It gives us the ability to have targeted responses. It allows us to have those flexible controls that can be triggered automatically or manually, such as locking an account when you see a user doing something they shouldn't, isolate an endpoint when that endpoint's doing something, or ultimately trigger a SOAR playbook that goes through and allows that increase of analyst throughput by doing these things automatically for them. Now, a little bit more about that attack signal intelligence. The way that we do this here is the first step. We have to analyze all the attacker methods. We do this with the MITRE ATT&CK. We have per domain analysis, so that enables us to have very deep coverage of every single domain that an attack could happen. We cover 90% of those attack techniques. And then, now that we have covered the attack side, we need to also know how to defend it. And so that's where we come in with the MITRE defend techniques. This allows us to detect those attack TTPs, but also we dive so much deep into it that we have the most patents on defend countermeasures to ensure that we can stop those issues when they start occurring. And we then wrap all of that with an optimal ML approach that allows you to decrease the time from hours to seconds in getting that clearer signal. Now, when you put that attack signal intelligence together with human intelligence, what is that going to allow us to do? It's going to allow us to automate and accelerate threat detection, hunting, triage, investigation, response. This allows us to provide intelligent actions from those intelligent signals to be able to give you the most robust protections possible. So let's talk about the ecosystem here. We can provide integrations into hundreds of different items and data sources. For example, we can do the cloud, AWS and Microsoft. We can do on-premise, VMware, Nutanix, and KVMs, just to name a few. We can do workflow automation, bring in Microsoft Sentinel or Splunk or IBM Security, ServiceNow. And then we also have these rich context integrations. And what we mean by context integrations is we pull in the additional information from these sources to be able to provide an even clearer signal in the Vectra platform. So items like CrowdStrike or SentinelOne or CyberReason or Carbon Black allows us to get that additional information. And then finally, the response controls. We want to be able to isolate the endpoints. We want to be able to take those actions. And so we can do that with the integrations from the top 7 vendors of EDR. Now, I talked a lot about a bunch of things, so let me break it down a little bit for you. We natively protect in our threat detection and response platform for the 5 vectors like we talked about, and that's natively. So from your public cloud to your SaaS, your identity, as well as on your networks. This gives you the coverage. You add in the Vectra ecosystem with the integrations that we have possible, and that is a very robust coverage system for you. Then we take it a next step further, and we have that attack signal intelligence. This allows us to have a driven AI that focuses on detection, triage, and prioritization. And that gives you that clarity of signal. And then finally, we have that AI-enabled operations. And that allows us to automate our integrated investigations. We have workflow automation, and it gives you that ability to have targeted response. And that's control. And that is our Vectra TDR platform. But then, on top of all of that, we add in the Vectra MDR services. So now you have experts in the field that can be able to provide you context, coverage, clarity, and control across your entire estate. So what do you get with the MDR service offering? You get expertise 24/7. You get global insights. And this is fantastic. SOC analysts that we have conduct investigations for companies across industries, geolocations, regions, you name it. And this gives them that unique perspective of the ever-changing threat landscape. But what it also allows us to do is when we learn something from one customer, we can apply it to all customers or to specific industries or specific geolocations, giving you that targeted protection. And that also provides you that added context. You know, we're being able to provide those findings and recommendations so that you have easy access to the information at your fingertips. And just some of the things that, you know, are standard on here, like your reporting, your email, your proactive configuration onboarding, all of the standards that you have. But I really want to dig in, you know, we have those global insights and added context that really helps you have great context on what's going on there. And then digging in a little bit more about our SOC team. You know, our expertise across the team has incident response, has threat hunting, has threat intelligence, malware analysis, and red teaming. You name it, we've got experts in it. And those experts typically have 10 plus years of experience. And they come from all walks of life, either from the government, from military, private sector, and even some from research. And our analysts go through thorough Vectra training so that they understand the platform just as much as they do all of their expertise. And that allows us to have analyst teams that can follow the sun 24/7 protection for you. And then, as always, we have analyst teams that possess all of those industry-leading certificates, from cloud to on-prem to the standard, you name it, we've got it. Now, CJ, I'll hand it back over to you.
Great. All right, so we talk to customers a lot, and one of the main things we hear is customers really want to maintain control. They don't necessarily want to completely outsource the threat detection and response. So we've adopted this shared responsibility model, and it's resonating really well. So essentially, you know, we have our platform in the middle, and that obviously surfaces all the detections that are prioritized and need to be looked at, and you can kind of tell from the fuzzy picture there that, you know, the top things are scored in their color, you know, they're color coded, so red is at the top, and then so the key things that our platform has identified that need to be looked at in priority order kind of are listed there. And then, you know, if your team is working on that, you know, our SOC analysts will see that. But conversely, you know, if our SOC analysts have grabbed that investigation, you'll see the status of that investigation. And again, it's really hard to see on this small picture. But if our SOC analyst is working on it, you have complete visibility on kind of where they are in this stage of their workflow. And then also within the platform, we can collaborate with you on the status of investigation. So at the core is our platform. So it's kind of a shared view of the work in progress. It gives you visibility and allows us to collaborate. And on the right is your team. So you obviously know your threat models. You have your kind of different signals that you look at, and your overall responsibility for your company's security. But on the left, you have us partnering with you 24/7, because a lot of our customers, their analysts are, standard working hours 9 to 5, which we work alongside you during those periods too. But kind of during the your off hours, our guys are still on. So we hear a lot of value in that. We have deep expertise in doing investigations in our platform. And and then also making sure the platform is configured optimally. And then Thomas touched on this before. So we have insights into global threats and emerging attacks within the customer base. So as we see things happening for one customer, then we can apply that to all of our customers and make sure they're protected. So we get a lot of positive feedback from this shared responsibility model, and it's one that we're gonna keep developing the service around that tenet of shared responsibility, and you'll see more and more capability in our platform. It just creates more visibility and a greater ability for us to continue to collaborate on investigations at the same time in the platform. So we're excited about that. And then this slide got a little out of whack here, but keys to a successful MDR partnership in our view, and this is kind of reiterating what Thomas and I had talked about. Signal is key. You have to have intelligent signal that drives detection, triage, and response, but more importantly, really arms your people, arms human intelligence so they can make the right decisions, and they're more effective at threat hunting and doing their investigations and response. So that's key. There's a lot of noise out in the market about that, but to us, that's essential. And then, of course, an AI-driven platform, which drives scale and better efficacy, a lot of automation. So obviously arming our people with the best information is key, but if the platform can offload and do a lot of that automatically, that's also very important. Broad attack surface coverage, Thomas talked about that. So you have to be able to look across all your various vectors: public cloud, SaaS, identity, networks, and endpoint. Shared responsibility model, I just talked about that. We believe that's really important based on all the customers we talk to, because ultimately customers want control. They may want varying degrees of control, but we want to allow for as much or as little control as you desire, working in the same platform as our analyst. And then you can't see it because it got cut off, but the last one says really an extension of your team. So you want a partner that will either fill gaps for you if you have gaps on your team, or just augment your team, or maybe you just need a partner that's really focusing on your off hours, so 24/7, kind of when you're not not on location. So that's really they're the keys to success for an MDR partnership in our view. And when we talk to the customers in the market, and I talk to analysts, that resonates pretty well. So hopefully that resonates with you as well. All right, John. With that,
I'm back. Nice work. So listen, everybody, we've had a good learning experience there in relation to the biggest challenge in security of being more, and I want to talk a little bit more about that in a second with the guys. Before we get to that, there are a lot of resources available for you. Obviously, we can't cover everything in the 40 or 45 minutes we have on a webcast. So we have a bunch of resources that you can access. You have the resources on the webcast today. However, they are also available on the website as well, right? So if you go to the Vectra website and you go to the products tab, the second link is into the managed detection and response services. And within that, you will find links to various assets that you can access at any time. Okay, we had a question earlier on about being able to access these resources. So on the website, you can get that at any time. The solution brief is a nice document. It'll give you an in-depth view of the services, a lot of the benefits that you can get from that as well. I'm a big fan of short overview videos, and CJ has done a magnificent job putting a short overview video of the managed detection and response services. It's up on YouTube. You can access that on the Vectra YouTube platform. It's only 2 minutes, and it gives you a good in-depth view of it as well. I think that's had over 25,000 views, CJ, since you did it. So, wow. CBS might be onto you about a job. Who knows, right? The best practices guide. So we quickly went through there some of the kind of best practices and outcomes that you can expect from the MDR services. So again, there's a more in-depth guide that you can access there. Thomas wrote a fantastic blog that focused in on the shared responsibility model. And again, we'll have a quick chat about that in a second. And finally, there's a bunch of FAQs, frequently asked questions, which again, an asset that I like to normally access myself when I'm looking at any technology to find out, what are the common questions that people are asking, what are the common answers to that. So all of these resources are available to you. We've also got some user cases or use cases sorry, I skipped too quickly there. So customer case studies. So we've got obviously a lot of organizations who use the Vectra MDR services already. And we continually learn from them as well. So we continually get feedback from customers saying, hey, this is something we need to work on, or something we need to add in, or whatever. And the product team and the MDR team are constantly working with customers to consistently enhance the program as well. So again, these cases are available publicly, and you can access those at your leisure and read through them as well. Okay, so with that brings us to the end of the formal presentation content. The Q&A side of things, before we get to there's a number of questions that have been asked in the chat there. But before we do that, I suppose one of the big questions, CJ, that we get, I suppose, from anybody out there, whether it's customer prospects or whatever, is around partnerships, right? So how can, if I'm a customer and I want to access our services via a partner that I'm using, or a partner whose services I'm already using, how might I go about that, and kind of what partners are you guys working with in the marketplace?
So we actually are primarily partner-led, so that's a good question. So we do work primarily with partners. The exact list I don't have in front of me, but we work with a lot of the big systems integrators and other VARs and also other MSSPs. But so if you have a specific partner you work with, either reach out to us if you're working with a Vectra person already, and they can help you navigate that. But working with partners is definitely one of our key go-to-markets. So it's something we're accustomed to do. It's something we're accustomed to doing and what we do most of the time.
Very good. And you mentioned the shared responsibility model earlier on as being, I suppose, a key differentiator from us and other MDR providers, right? So maybe just a quick recap on that, and why does shared responsibility make it a big thing for customers?
I think it really comes down to control. Like a lot of organizations, particularly some of the large ones we talk to, they trust us, but do they really trust us 100% to not have some control? Because most MDRs are really kind of a full outsource, which works for some customers, particularly in some market segments. But in others, or depending on the maturity of the company, they definitely want their MDR partner with them on their hip, but they want to be able to have the control to do a lot of the work themselves, or to minimum have complete visibility on what the MDR or what we're doing for them throughout investigation. So we're working, we've worked a lot on making sure that in the platform, for any detection that's been prioritized and our SOC analyst is working on it, that the customer can actually see exactly where they are in the workflow. And we're even working on allowing in-app communication, so a customer can ask questions during an investigation. And also the other way, our analyst may have a question to the customer. Obviously, we have ways to contact them today through email and phone calls and other ways, and kind of Slack channels and stuff, but doing it in the platform is what we're building right now. So we can kind of keep that all contained. We think it just makes for a richer experience, and also makes it easier for the person doing the investigation because everything is kind of contained in one place.
Very good. And another point that came in there is just in relation to customer size. Obviously, you've got customers who are small, medium, large enterprises, global enterprises. Does our MDR services appeal to everybody in those markets?
It does. If you look at the MDR market, it's generally considered sweet spot as mid-market and commercial, because generally those customers don't have the staff or the maturity. Not always, obviously. There are mid-market customers that are super mature and have good security teams, but generally they don't. So any research you read from Gartner and other analysts and other kind of publications, MDR is typically mid-market focused, but that's really changing. In fact, there's been some statistics out recently where, what we consider enterprise customers are adopting MDR at just as fast as raised mid-market, but for slightly different reasons. So like I talked about, MDR for mid-market is primarily about kind of lack of staff and lack of maturity. But in the enterprise space, which is really where the majority of our customers are today, it's about augmenting their teams and letting their teams maybe prioritize on other things that they have a trusted partner that they feel comfortable doing the 24/7 investigations. So slightly different reason for having interest in MDR. but interest nonetheless. And Gartner has they did a report in September, I think, and I was doing a debriefing with them, and the majority of the inquiries they get from their enterprise customers are about MDR, because they're trying to figure out how to navigate this. And the pain point they're trying to solve is, 24/7 is hard. Even though we have teams and budgets, we just want another set of eyes there alongside with us. So we're seeing a lot of uptick because of that driver as well.
Yeah. And Thomas, a question for you just in relation to deployment, right? So obviously there's some prerequisites that are required to deploy our MDR services. So what are the kind of key prerequisites, and kind of what's the type of timescale normally that it takes to deploy an MDR service from Vectra?
Thomas, I may have you help me out on that one.
So yeah, no worries. I'll take it. So it's actually really pretty quickly. We can get, depending on the install, really. On-premise will have some appliances, of course, but cloud would be incredibly quick because we can hook natively into the cloud. And then once everything's installed, it's about 2 weeks for the modeling to start, and that's the AI systems just getting used to the sound and signal of your network. But our team is already in there and working with you while that's happening. But right around 2 weeks after that, it's a good steady state, and it just improves from there as the AI model learns your environment.
Cool. And as you're on there, there's a question in from Martha. Could you elaborate more on where the responsibility handoff is from Vectra to the client team? So where's that line of delineation from in the shared responsibility model?
So we go through a lot of that during kind of the kickoff, and we develop a RACI. And it, again, some customers want it fully, I'll say, quote unquote, outsourced, so they have us doing all the investigations. But most of them want some type of hybrid model. So we as we do the onboarding, we have a whole process for walking through that. And then again, during an actual investigation, the visibility is there for you. And we're actually working on now is what we need to figure out is right now when one of our analysts has the investigation, they own it, but we are looking at down the road, potentially some in-app handoffs where we could hand off the investigation to the customer if they desire. And we can do that manually today, but making that part of the platform is something we're looking at as well.
Excellent, good stuff. So there are all the questions that came in on the chat. Just one comment, I suppose, and it's interesting we talk around the challenge of more, right? And my history in IT and the companies I've been in, it's people always wanting more, right? So if you think about it, of the kind of key elements of compute, memory, storage, and network, right? We need more compute, we want it faster, we need more memory, we need more storage, we need more network bandwidth. So I spent the majority of my life in IT trying to help people get more and more faster, which I suppose is why the cloud was developed, so that people could deploy all of these resources on demand. And of course, for security, that has created a huge challenge of more attack surface and all that kind of good stuff that CJ went through earlier on. So it's kind of an inverse relationship with more that I have right now.
It's funny, I do talk to a lot of customers that they're trying to downsize their estates and reduce vendors, and that's not a surprise, because I think we all get caught up in that wave. And but I think for some companies, there certainly is a concerted effort to actually do less, where less is more. But it's certainly hard to navigate out there because we're being bombarded constantly with the latest and greatest and new things that we need.
And security in its own right, in terms of the marketplace, my understanding is that there's over like 850 different vendors in the space, right? So if you're a CISO out there or you're a SOC manager and you're trying to make decisions on, what technologies are going to bring me value quickly, I suppose Vectra's attack signal intelligence, which we launched back in September, can really bring value to an organization because of that clarity of signal that you talked about earlier on, which is an absolute, must to have in any kind of security environment. Having said that, another key aim with Vectra is ecosystem integrations, right? So we will continue to operate and work with the best of the best in the marketplace to make sure we can help integrate solutions together and help people consolidate in terms of tools as well. So Thomas, I'm presuming you've come across a lot of organizations and kind of examined the kind of tool sets they have. How many security tools typically would you come across that an organization would be using in the mid-market or the enterprise space?
That's a great question. The answer typically for our customers, the customers that I've interacted with over the years, is too many. They have a SIEM, a SOAR, firewalls, intrusion protection, DOPs, SWGs, and the issue with it is they're all silent, right? And so that's what's really fantastic about the Vectra ecosystem, is bringing them all together to bring in that clarity of signal. So that you can take the added context from all of the different disparate environments, putting them together and allowing for that greater knowledge and confidence of knowing what decision you're going to be making when you make a response.
Absolutely. And final thoughts, CJ. If a customer today wants to get in touch with us about our MDR services, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can go to our website, and there's a easily way to kind of ask for someone to reach out to you. And again, there's a bunch of resources on our website about that. But if you're interested in learning more, you can just go to our website, and there's contact information there.
Cool stuff. Okay, so with that, thank you, everybody. Hopefully you've had a good learning experience about Vectra MDR services in a shared responsibility model. Thanks to CJ and Thomas. Appreciate all your insights and your brilliance. As said, the resources are available on the webcast right now. Please fill in the survey. We always want to get immediate response to any kind of webcast that we do, and always continue to try to improve them as we go forward in time as well. And as I said, if you want to access any of the resources at any time, jump on the website, go to the product link, and the second link down from there is the MDR services link, and you'll get access to everything from there. So with that, thanks everybody. It's been a pleasure, and we hope to see you very soon on another Vectra webinar. Take care and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thanks all.